two women are in ICE custody, and wait till you hear why.
Two relatives of a top Iranian commander who was killed during President Trump's first term are now in federal custody and facing possible deportation.
ICE busted them shortly after the Secretary of State Marco Rubio revoked their green cards. The pair had posted praise for Iran's regime and celebrations of attacks on the U.S. At the same time, they were living a very high lifestyle.
Yeah, where'd they get the money for that?
These relatives of Qasem Soleimani did more than just praise Iran's regime and enemy of the United States on social media. These women publicly supported the IRGC, that's Iran's military, that's designated a foreign terrorist organization here in the United States. The Trump administration says that amounts to material support.
Wow, that's the home they were living in LA. But what's fascinating is they're not living in Iran, where they wouldn't have any of the same rights or freedoms they're enjoying in America, with money stolen from people who don't have those freedoms in their home country, where they claim they support the regime destroying everyone's life.
Case. So take a look at these women. The niece and the grandniece of Qasem Soleimani, they are in ICE custody now, pending removal from the U.S. The Secretary of State says the move came after he terminated their legal status in the country last week.
Why did they have that?
X. Until recently, Hamideh Soleimani Afshar and her daughter were green card holders living lavishly in the U.S. She celebrated attacks on Americans and referred to our country as the, quote, Great Satan. President Trump often touts the operation he had authorized in his first term to take out Qasem Soleimani, a notorious killer responsible for the deaths of tens of thousands of people. He counts it among his greatest counterterrorism achievements to this very day. Take a listen to the president a moment ago.
Oh, this is Trump on this.
We killed Soleimani. Without Soleimani, if they had Soleimani, it would be a whole different thing. Maybe. Would still be winning, but it would have been harder. Because we are obliterating that country.
Wow. But look at him.
Soleimani's niece entered the U.S. on a tourist visa in 2015, eventually secured asylum, then obtained a green card. Despite frequent trips home back to Iran, she sought relentlessly during her time here to become an influencer on social media.
Yeah, they were
her
TikTokers.
Daughter came to the U.S. that same year on a student visa and essentially never left. She too.
The mom and the daughter, they're like the exact same person here. These wannabe influencers living a lifestyle that is banned where they're from. They can't do this or dress like this. And where were they living? Los Angeles, in a place where everybody else hates America.
Much of her time promoting herself and her American lifestyle on social media platforms. Harris,
look at all the freedom they have.
I mean, barely warrants a mention.
Let's dress up like Kim Kardashian.
These women were back home living under the rule of the regime they say they love. They would not be allowed to post on social media.
Right.
They would not be allowed to go out in public alone or even take selfies. They would not be allowed to attend college or school.
That's why they don't live there.
They would be living under Sharia law. It would be a very different situation.
That's why they don't live there.
Jillian Turner, thank you very much. Former Department of Homeland Security advisor and former Secret Service agent Charles Marino is with me now. Charles, a lot of people have been asking, how in the world did they stay here? That nobody ever said anything after, their relative being annihilated in Trump's first term.
It shows you the type of vetting and type of immigration policies that this country has had for a very long time that allowed this situation to exist. You cannot make this up.
Know that he was an enemy. The military took him out.
Daughters of an enemy combatant.
I think the American people would be shocked to learn how many people we have allowed into the country, either through claims of asylum or on student visas or tourist visas, that are associated with adversarial countries, including the leaders of them.
There's no vetting. You've got people like this. They show up in America. They say, oh, I'm a tourist. Oh, I'm a student. Oh, I'm a asylum seeker. I'm here to seek asylum. And then it turns out these people have returned to Iran. They're not seeking asylum from anything. There are people that seek asylum from them and the regime they support. And the most shameful thing is their entire lifestyle is a lifestyle stolen from the people of their own country.
You should thank ICE for arresting Iranian terror generals' high-living relatives. And
sanctuary state, man. Go figure.
It is unusual for the families of America's sworn enemies to support the bad guys so openly while enjoying the California sunshine. Soleimani's relatives must have thought they were immune. After all, they lived in a sanctuary state. But as Rubio noted, Secretary of State, a green card is a privilege, not a right. And you cannot support America's enemies and expect to stay in the country. Charles.
Now, listen to this. The New York Post has an article. Apparently, her and her daughter, they are some of the most toxic people on the entire planet. She is referred to right here as a crazed stalker who made her ex-boyfriend's life hell. So this gentleman got a 5-year restraining order against this woman after a campaign of harassment. So she was crazy, as it says right here, and there were restraining orders taken out against her because she was making people's lives very difficult. And this was actually a domestic violence restraining order. And he listed their relationship as "we are dating or used to date." Filings outline allegations of emotional abuse, harassment, and unwanted calls, all kinds of bizarre things. What is this house right here? One of them was living, this little tiny house right here. That's kind of weird. This is the daughter right here. She showed up in 2021 on a student visa. But as outrageous as it is that these people are here, they're not the only ones.
And this part, here at home. We're learning another relative of the Iranian regime has been living lavishly in Los Angeles. According to court documents, adjunct professional psychology professor Isa Hashimi has reportedly been living in the United States for years after allegedly coming here on a student visa. His mom was known to the world as Screaming Mary.
Okay.
She was the spokeswoman for the Iranian militants who took 52 Americans hostage.
If these are the people who were here with legal permission, who's here without legal permission? Who came in through that open border without permission if these are the people that came in openly?
444 days in 1979. At one point, she told reporters she would gladly pick up a gun and American hostages.
That's terrible.
Screaming Mary was his mom. He's living it up here in the U.S.
That's his mom.
Now a petition is circulating online demanding the Trump administration kick Screaming Mary's boy out of the country.
Why do we need a petition?
Which is exactly what's happening to the niece and grandniece of notorious Iranian General Qasem Soleimani.
Unreal.
Those two had been posting pictures bragging about their luxe lives before they were arrested by ICE.
That's
Critics
so crazy.
are applauding the crackdown.
Yeah.
We ought to start, we need a cleaning, and this needs to start right now. This is a perfect example of what we need to be doing, because I guarantee you the money they're spending is probably somehow is shipped over there to an NGO in one of those countries from American taxpayers of the United Nations, and they come back over here and they...
It's the Barack Obama Iran deal money that is funding their lifestyle in LA, while the rest of us deal with an affordability crisis. That deal keeps getting better all the time, doesn't it?
Oh, I'm having a 6-7 moment. Don't tell any teenager you know. It is Lux Life or go back to Iran.
Yeah, they're getting deported.
Yeah, and the New York Post had a really interesting article citing that there are anywhere from 4,000 to 5,000 of these individuals in the country, of relatives of the Iranian regime, elites and bureaucrats living in our country, studying at our universities, even teaching at some of our universities.
Why are they teaching at our universities? Why are people associated with the enemies of America educating students that get student loans from the U.S. government?
So in Iran, their leaders are chanting death to America. They're calling us the great Satan. They're burning our flags. They're trying to kill our men and women, yet their relatives are coming to the United States. So if we're the great Satan, why do you want to be here? And why the heck are we allowing you to be here? And then beyond that, if you remember back to the Biden administration, we've even allowed some of these individuals to work in our government.
What?
Do you remember Semaphore had that article about some of the members who were tied to the Iran Experts Initiative, which was a part of the Iran Foreign Ministry's influence campaign here in the West, and they were working for the Biden administration. So we really got to think about this legal immigration stuff. Why are we giving these people visas and green cards?
This is why you need to close the U.S. border. Our legal immigration system is enough of a nightmare that having an open border is just, how could anybody think that's a good idea when the legal ways to come into America don't seem like they're very strict at all, or at least they haven't been for decades. 4,000 people is what they're talking about?
Really? Yeah, and not only is this individual in this country, He is a professor.
Exactly.
Right? A college psychology professor. Apparently, you pay $20,000 to go to this school. And this is the person shaping the minds of Americans.
That's
and
gross.
I'm reading through the New York Post. There's no definitive break. We just reported, he's not disowning his mom. So why is this person teaching our children?
Yeah, it's
Not
weird.
only that, apparently, this is in the New York Post too, the father of this individual, according to some people who were involved in some of these hostage interrogations that happened in Iran, he was in the room during some of these hostages in Iran. So if you can't make that definitive break from your parents, why are you here? Why are you a psychology professor? You would think the school could find better.
Unless these radical universities prefer to have people like this teaching at them. That's the other part of the problem here. You've got these people living in a sanctuary city. They hate America. They brag about online how much they hate America. And you know what? They're right at home. All of their friends agree with them. Everybody living with them agrees with them. The universities that hire these people, they agree with them. They like their expertise. They like their background. They think it's going to give students a well-rounded view of the world, which I guess is any view that says the United States is terrible and should be taken down a notch or two.
I'm concerned about the school not knowing history.
They know history. I mean, I don't think they're ignorant.
Maybe they had no idea who this man was, but don't you do any sort of vetting?
I think
and when you see a connection, doesn't the leader of the history department say, "Whoa, yo"?
Yes, and I'd like to say this too: that the professors, the relatives of these individuals at Tulane, at Emory, and the like, there have been petitions circulating. There have been an outcry from the dissidents of the Islamic Republic for quite some time, trying to get them out of here. It's only now that it's sort of catching fire amongst the country as we see with horrified lens that these individuals have been benefiting, living off the fat of Western culture while lambasting it at the same time, and enjoying, by the way, the fruits of blood money. And you hit the nail on the head to me that there is no break from the regime. These are not people who have sought asylum here that have said, I have zero connection with my terrorist families. These are people who enjoy bashing Western values and bashing the United States in the same breath as posting those kind of, or not that one, but posting the photos of themselves. And I note the horrific contrast of a regime that butchers young women for not wearing a hijab. And then these young women get to post photos of themselves half naked and in front of private jets and all of those lavish, luxe, clickbaiting, ridiculous positions. Well, the positions of many of their brethren are now.
If you were to view the posts that these people were making in Iran, that would be a capital offense. That's not allowed over there, let alone to make stuff like that over there. You can't do that. So what do? They flee that. They come over here, and then they hate on America. You know what they're doing? They want to have their cake and eat it too. They want the money and support that's coming from their home country, which is stolen money that's paying for them to live here and be influencers. And they also want to hate on America at the exact same time while being in it, living in a sanctuary state of all places. Well, now they can't do that because people like this are getting deported. I'm just surprised at how many of them there are.
6 feet under. It is horrifying that this regime that we are talking about today, that has put human chains around targets, that put children around targets, enjoys their children living off our luxury and our generosity. So I hope indeed that those petitions find their way to a lot more concretized action.
Petitions reveal that people
online.
know about this and won't deal with
terrorists. They sound like Hamas. That's who does that. They put women and children around targets and use them so that the enemy kills them first.
That's who they're defending.
The niece and the grandniece living in Los Angeles got asylum in this country in 2019. Then they got green cards.
They were asylum seekers.
I know Secretary of State Marco Rubio has started a huge drumbeat now. You were talking about how they come to this country, Emily, with taking away those green cards because, Paul, they're at the discretion of the nation.
Apparently, these women that came here and got asylum, what did they do? They returned to Iran. Her daughter traveled in 2021 on a student visa. Both had traveled back to Iran multiple times. So here they are. They're asylum seekers, right? But, they go back to the same country that they are seeking asylum from while getting asylum designation in America. Apparently, they own a home which costs $500,000, which they bought, so they're property owners. owned a black Tesla. Look at that. Oh, it's some Dior bags. Woo!
Automatically get that. So he's taken them away, and now they're on that short deport list.
Good.
I'd love to know the route. We don't have an embassy in Tehran, okay? So what State Department consular officer in the diplomatic cone reviewed the applications, approved this, and said, in you go, and I'd like to know their status. Are they LPRs? Are they green card holders? Are they here? I know the reporting is that Hashemi is here on a student visa. Well, those expire. So what is he doing here?
And he's
once
a professor.
Again, it's another example of the fact that we had open borders and we had an immigration system that nobody really seemed to have any interest in minding.
Right.
And all I would say is just expand the footprint of this story a little bit, because if they could do this, imagine what, let's say, the Russians, the Chinese, especially the Chinese, these Confucian institutes on our universities are just rampant.
So that's interesting. That's interesting, because that came up today with one of the guests on Fox News about Hungary, which is where the vice.
Nobody wants to talk about that, do they? Nobody wants to talk about how we've got 5,000 people from an evil regime living in this country, benefiting from its rights and freedoms. And that's just one country that has said it wants to take America down, cut us down to size, and that we're no good. Think of all the people from Russia. Think of all the people from China. This is just bizarre. This shows you what a disaster our current laws and policies are, because we're not following them. These people are supposed to be vetted. They're supposed to be checked out. And if they violate the conditions of asylum, you're seeking asylum from Iran, and then you want to go back there, and then you're making trips between the two countries. Like, why? Nobody looked. Nobody checked. That's why they were here. What do you think about that? I'll see you in the next video.